Now, this year's theme for the Rains Retreat Speaker Series is Dust in Our Eyes. And what this alludes to is the story of the Buddha and how the Buddha decided to share Dharma with all beings after his enlightenment. And he was initially a bit reluctant to share. He had deep insights. He wasn't sure if the community were ready for it, but he changed his mind after seeing the potential in many beings who have little dust in their eyes. So that's the theme for our speaker series. Now tonight, I did want to acknowledge that full moon in September is marked as International Bhikkhuni Day, where we, honour all of our nuns, our bhikkhunis. I recently came back from the Sakyadhita International Conference, Women's Conference in Malaysia, and it was incredible to see the number of women who have taken up robes and different traditions and hear their, both their triumphs and their struggles. So tonight, I wanted to take you through a 30-minute meditation. And I wanted to do this in dedication to those remarkable women. And not just monastic women, and not just women actually, but all people who care for other people, because that's very much the theme of tonight. So, as always, with meditation, the most important thing is to be kind and compassionate to yourself. So we'll get the lights dimmed down. So it feels very bright for some reason. So dim down the lights. And just take a moment to arrive. And what I mean by that, this is what I say to my work group that I teach a meditation class every Wednesday to the Water Corporation. I've been doing that for about 8 years. And what I say to them is, just take a moment to feel the space around you. Take a moment to just simply arrive. And what I mean by that is to leave all of those things that you might be planning in your mind. You might have encountered Perth traffic on the way here. The road was wet. All these things that arise and pass in our daily lives. We know that the one constant in life is change. So there's no real point in hanging on to it. Which means we're free to close down the eyes, feel your feet on the floor, feel the way your body sits on the chair or on the cushion. And make a commitment to yourself that for the next 30 minutes, you'll give yourself the space and the grace to just simply relax. And And you might even set a bit of an intention for your practice. It need not be anything too profound. It can be just simply to relax. Or as Ajahn Brahm always likes to say, relax to the max. Chillax. You might like to just start by just doing a gentle scan of the body. And I always like to start with the feet, because it really does feel like grounding. Just notice the way that you're sitting. Make any adjustments you need to. And in honour of my Dharma sisters, I'm going to take you through a bit of a poem that helps us tune in with our senses. This was written by Dr. Paula Arai from her talk on the healing art, Seeing Women's Heart of Wisdom and Compassion. So I'd invite you to just gently come in contact with the breath. Just feeling the in-breath and the out-breath. Noticing the way that when you place your awareness on the breath, when you drop beneath all the movements of mind, come into the heart space, and breathe. The body starts to calm, and so does the mind. And feeling the quiet and calmness in the body and mind, I'd invite you to listen. Listening with our ears to hear the cries of the world, to listen to teachings and singing birds. So having gratitude for listening deeply. Listening to that rain. The rain that nourishes the earth. Feeling the softness of the eyes. And as meditators, we know the value of seeing deeply the pain of the world, and through our eyes to visualize the blissful realms. As we breathe, we become aware of our noses. Our noses that not only draw in the goodness of the breath, but smell the sweetness of roses and the fragrance of forgiveness. Feeling the inside of our mouth. To taste. Does our tea need more sugar? Does our soup need more salt? To savor the satisfaction of nourishing. Noticing your fingers. Fingers that may tend to a wound. Or may play a violin. Or paint beautiful pictures. Feeling, breathing into our arms and our legs. Arms and legs that carry books and bags and heavy hearts. Feeling into the heart space. hearts of gold that beat in sync with the drums of justice. Looking deep into our minds, our minds crowded with thoughts of so many things, from finance to laundry. Our minds that expand with the summons of wisdom. Some of us have wombs that give birth to forms of love. Wrinkly and smooth, round and angular, dark and light. And some might say our bodies are encoded with the Buddha's DNA. What superb vehicles for transporting compassion. And I'd like to read a second short poem to contemplate in the last 5 minutes of our meditation. Life forms, death reforms, wisdom transforms, compassion conceives. Who was I before I was born? And as we draw towards the end of the meditation, take a moment to look into your heart. And reflect back on the experience. Maybe start to notice the sense of hearing, of becoming aware of the sounds of the rain, the sound of your own breathing. Becoming aware of the eyes, the feel of the breath, on the nostrils, the inside of your mouth, the feel of your fingers, maybe even just wriggling the fingers and toes. A sense of spaciousness in the heart. A calmness of mind. And in the spirit of caring, with a sense of gratitude, I invite you to just bring your hands to your heart and say thank you to yourself for taking the time to meditate, for coming here tonight and sharing this space with everyone in the room, all the beings around us. And maybe sending some good wishes out to anyone in need of a bit of care and kindness right now. May they be happy and healthy, kind and gentle. If you haven't already, gently opening the eyes, turning to the people next to you and saying thank you. Thank you for meditating together. And I'd like to thank Dr. Paula Arai for the inspiration in that poem. I'd like to move to introduce tonight's speaker and just allow all those who need to leave, run to the loo, grab more cushions. Okay, I'd like to introduce Mr. Boon Tan. So Boon has been a long-time follower of the Buddhist Society of WA since the 90s, when the former Ajahn Jagaro was the spiritual director. And there might be a few people here that remember Ajahn Jagaro. So Boon volunteered in the BSWA committee between 2014 and 2020, and at the invitation of one of the committee, firstly as assistant treasurer and then the treasurer. It's a very important job. He has represented BSWA on the Buddhist Council of WA since 2014, holding the role of committee member, president, and now as treasurer. Since 2022, he has represented both BSWA and BCWA at the Federation of Australian Buddhist Councils, contributing as both secretary and treasurer. So despite those roles, where you'll usually see Boon is behind the long lens of his camera. He may well have pointed his camera at you. I'd also like to acknowledge my friend Tola Chan. He's here as well from the Buddhist Council of WA. So Boon, if you'd like to come on up and take this very comfortable seat and tell us all about the Buddhist Council of WA.
Thank you very much, Sandra. I feel I would do better standing than sitting. So I'll be standing, and I think I can think better that way. So while we're actually setting this up, just to give you some back of what I'm going to tell you about. I've been with the Buddhist Council of Western Australia for quite some time. We have another one, Tola, also has been in Buddhist Council for quite some time. And Sandra joins in a couple of years ago? About a couple of years. Yeah. So here we are. That's our new logo. Let's continue with that one. I can't get the slide working. Okay. How did this Buddhist Council comes about? Prior to 2004, the Buddhist Society of Western Australia was one of the big centers in Western Australia. And quite often, the government or other organizations comes to the Buddhist BSWA to make inquiries and asking BSWA to represent Buddhism and the Buddhist community in Western Australia. Then I think Ajahn Brahm might have been involved there. The committee decided that the BSWA cannot represent everyone in Western Australia because it consists of different traditions. We have the Theravada. There are a few Theravadas at the time. There are a few Mahayana groups as well, some Vietnamese and so on. And there are some also Tibetan groups or Vajrayana. So around 2003, 2004, I managed to get this newsletter, the extract from this new newsletter published in spring 2004. And we have Sol Hannah, who was the president at the time of the BSWA. We got John Wade from the Hayagriva, which is a Tibetan groups. And we got Man Wong from the Buddha Light International Association. They are based in mainlands. And they came together, and that is when the Buddhist Council of Western Australia was formed. So around 2004 is when it was registered, and it started then on. Interestingly, the Buddha Light International decided not to join in the Buddhist Council of Western Australia. It's mainly because there are a few reasons, partly probably due to the constitution that didn't allow them to be part of the Buddhist Council. So here we go. That's when it actually started. Now, right now, along the time, we have many different groups of associations that actually participate in the being a member of the Buddhist Council of Western Australia. And this is the latest one that we have. Prior to that, we have other groups like Zen groups. We got other different associations involved as well. So currently, we have the BSWA, Buddhist Society of Western Australia. We've got a Hayagriva, and we got the Cambodian Buddhist Society, which is what Tola represents. The Australian Buddhist Bliss Cultural Mission, they are actually based in Willetton. There's a Mahayana group. The Sri Lankan Buddhist Society, they are based in Kenwick. The Tisarana Buddhist Association of WA, they are, I believe it's forest around near Midland there. I think Forest, I forgot the name of the suburb. Forestville, that's the one, thanks. The Diamond Way Buddhism Center WA, they're more Tibetan groups. They're actually based in Bible Lake. And we got the Buddha Light International WA. They're now, previously they didn't join, but a few years ago they joined Buddhist Council, which is good. And they are the one actually based in Maylands. The more recent one that we have is the Drukpa Australia Incorporated. They are from the Bhutanese group. Then followed by this Buddhist Compassion Relief Searchy Foundation. Now, Searchy is very active in terms of helping out with all these other events. When there's some disaster, they do all these fundraisings and so on, and they're very active there. The last one is the Mahasandhi Center in Perth. They are the Bhutanese group as well. They focus more on the meditations. Now, among them, some of them chose not to become a member, but what we do, we list them as friends of the Buddhist Council of Western Australia. They are like this. There are many reasons why they don't join. Mainly because you have to pay, that's one thing. The other reason is that some of them monastics, so they don't really want to be part of this the council. The other thing also is they need to have registered members. They need to have at least 30 members in their association before they can actually be part of the council. So here, as you can see, there's quite a range of Buddhist associations or groups of a Buddhist community in Western Australia itself. So we got Armadale Group, which is part of BSWA, the Association of Burma, Buddhist in WA. We've got the Bodhiana Monks Monastery in Serpentine. We got the Buddha Mandala Monastery. What else have we got? Chan Gat Temple, that's actually based in Money Street in Perth. Dhammasara Nuns Monastery, that's related to BSWA. We got the Dhammapala Kadampa Meditation, that's Tibetan groups. The Phu Quang San Temple. Now, Phu Quang San Temple and BLIA, which is Buddha Light International, they're together. The Buddha Light International, they are the association for lay people, whereas the Phu Quang San is actually more for the monastics. You got the International Meditation Center, you got Kamzong, Zilnon, Drukpa, they are Bhutanese group as well. They are very active and they are supported by the Bhutanese government. The Australian Mahayana Buddhist Society Incorporated, in fact, that was one of the centers that actually I started volunteering in Western Australia before I actually volunteered in BSWA. They are now based in Maddington. Then you got the Mahabodhi Monastery, Mahanirvana Buddhist Meditation Center. They are very big in Sri Lanka and also quite big in Australia. They have a few centers, some in, let me see, they got one in Adelaide, New South Wales, or Victoria, and one here as well. You got Mingala Tulka Vihara, then that is a small group of Burmese Buddhist groups there. And in fact, they did a fundraising for the monastery in Albany last week. You got Patachara Bhikkhuni Hermitage, that's the run by Ayasari. They are sort of a branch out of the Dhammasara. I shouldn't say that, but they were the nuns from Dhammasara Nuns Monastery. Po Quang Temple, that's a big center. That's a Vietnamese center in Marangaru. They're quite successful in terms of getting the community activity running for that group. Sunyata Community Center, Meditation Center, you got Theravada Mahayana Buddhist Center, you got Tibetan Buddhist Society, they are quite small group. And you got another small group, which is a Zen group in Western Australia based in Fremantle. And there are more which is not listed here. So you can just imagine in WA itself we have so many different Buddhist associations and groups. And so when Buddhist Council meet the relevant organizations like government and so on, we're actually representing all these groups as well. So what does BSWA do? Firstly, it is a big body of Buddhist for the Buddhist community. So when there is any activity like functions or events that take place in Western Australia, the Buddhist Council will be there to represent the Buddhism in Australia. It is also a member of the Federation Australian Buddhist Council. Now, Federation Australian Buddhist Council consists of the groups of Buddhist Council, the states Buddhist Council throughout Australia. Currently, we have Western Australian Buddhist Council, we've got the South Australian Buddhist Council, the Victoria Buddhist Council, the Queensland Buddhist Council of Queensland, and Buddhist Council of New South Wales. So we come once every, let's say about 2 months, we come together and we discuss about matters that relates to Australian Buddhism. Now, this is something which I mentioned previously, that we basically respond to, we're like a kind of a middle person between the government and the Buddhist community. So we deal with like Office of Multicultural Interests, the Department of Home Affairs, Office of Attorney General, and occasionally we get queries. We were asked to respond to certain things, certain questions, matters, and so on. And yeah, that's what we do, our role. Now, currently what we do also is that we work with the hospitals. Mainly we work with the chaplains or any pastoral care teams when they need, when there is a patient either dying or died, and they need some help, advice in relation to Buddhism. And I will go through this later after describing what Buddhist Council does. Another one that we've been dealing with is in relation to the prison chaplains. What we do, we send books and so on. I think in the past we used to run meditation classes in prison, and it goes through the Buddhist Council. Sometimes it goes through the Buddhist Society of Western Australia as well. Now, there are also, sometimes people get married. So what we do, we actually have a list of, marriage celebrants that we list out to the, to support the people who want to get married. They are listed in the Federation Australian Buddhist Council. They are also listed in the Buddhist Council of Western Australia. I think currently we have Lisa D'Souza, who's actually kind of listed as a marriage celebrant in Western Australia. In the past, we've also worked with the WA Museum. If you go to the second floor of the new museum, you'll find Ajahn Brahm there. And it took us a few years to work with the new museum to bring Buddhism into the public, like the museum. You will see Ajahn Brahm's sort of a history or biography on the second floor, and also they have this some articles, some old books that Ajahn Brahm has got there. And yeah, I mean, we were involved in doing that. So this is where the Buddhist Council comes very, very useful. Otherwise, it's a bit difficult for them to actually get something out of the Buddhist community. We currently in the process of working on a chaplaincy program for the Buddhist community in Western Australia. that's a challenging task. Chaplaincy program is something that's currently dominated by different groups, and it's trying to introduce the Buddhism chaplaincy is quite challenging, but we're progressing slowly. And lastly, the role of the Buddhist Council is also to protect Buddhism reputation here as well. Occasionally, we do get sort of a bad reputation. Like, for example, you may have a pub that opens up and call it a Buddha bar, or call it something, or even that you may have some groups that pretend to be a Buddhist activity, but doing something totally different than what the Buddha taught. So yeah, that's where the Buddhist Council steps in. So I mentioned about this, the pastoral care. So in the pastoral care, this is one example that I can show you what we do. In the pastoral care, there are different traditions that we need to sort of educate the hospitals, because they are the front line. They deal with the patients who are in a group which are kind of run by the Christian groups, and they are not familiar with the Buddhist traditions, Buddhist requirements. So what we've done is to go to the hospital through their invitation, of course, and explain to them how Buddhism actually works. I mean, how it can be seen to help the patients. So we have to tell them, we got three different traditions, three main traditions. We've got this Theravada, which is what we are here normally, most of us. Then we got the Mahayana, and then we got the Vajrayana. The Vajrayana one is a bit more tricky. You might think the Tibetan are Vajrayana, not quite. The Tibetan actually Mahayana. But to be a Vajrayana, you need to understand Padmasambhava, or they call it Guru Rinpoche. Then you can understand Vajrayana much better. And for the nurses and so on, or pastoral care, for them to help with the patients, they need to understand what does the patient actually require. So what we've done, we've listed for them some of the common, in this case, the common books used by the lay people. Like, for example, in the Theravada, we use the paritas for chanting usually, and we normally use the Dhammapada, and like the Majjhima Nikayas and Satipatthana Suttas and so on. Maybe I should just read this a bit. Yeah. Whereas in the Mahayana group, we have this. There are other suttas that lay people use, such as the Medicine Buddha Sutra, the Prajna Parimata Hat Sutra, Diamond Sutra, and you got the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. In the Vajrayana, which is a bit more exoteric practice, they focus on the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. And they focus on Guru Rinpoche's teachings and things like songs from Milarepa. Now, when there are patients who are in, I guess I can call it distress or I guess dying, what happens usually is that the monks or even lay teachers would normally go there to visit the patients and do some kind of chantings. And for the Theravada, we tend to use the the triple germ. Normally, when you hear it from this, what we hear in the Friday night chanting here, that's what it is, most of it. The metta chanting, which is a common one, loving kindness chanting. The other common ones are like Mahamangala, Gata, and Ratana Sutta, Bojjhanga Sutta, and there's so many different suttas that they do chanting. Now, if you go towards the Mahayana patient, they don't use this one. They use something else like Medicine Buddha chanting or Vajrayana Buddha chanting. They have the Amitabha Buddha, which is Namo Omi Tofu, which is what they normally chant. And then you got this great compassion mantra, which is Om Mani Padme Hum, and Prajna Parimata Sutra, and Diamond Sutra. This is the common ones they have. Whereas the Vajrayana, they focus strictly more on their practices. Some call it secret practices, but they also use practice the Medicine Buddha and also the Great Compassion Mantra, like Om Mani Padme Hum. Now, in the hospital, I'm not sure. I don't think they have a lot of chanting happening in the Christian groups, but in the Buddhist traditions, we use a lot of chanting. And you might ask, why do we use chanting? And this is one of the some of the points that we kind of highlighted. When they do chanting, it actually calms the mind, especially when you're very sick. It calms the mind and emotion. And provided the chanting is done quietly, not too loud and so forth, it can create a sacred and peaceful atmosphere. It also generates positive energy, so they feel positive when someone's chanting or when they listen to some chanting. It actually encourages faith, and when chanting is done properly, you can get more mindful and follow what the Buddha taught, like letting go and so on. At the same time, they actually strengthen the spiritual connection. Now, this is normally done by monks or nuns or respected teachers, but you can also play through CDs or MP3 files and so on, and that can be done at a hospital when no one's around. Oops, I've done it. Now, usually closer to the time of death, when someone's really about to die, what we mentioned to the hospital there was that the patients need to have clear state of mind, whether they have with or without medication. That means, what I mean there is that sometimes they may be given morphine and so on. Now, understand that in different centers, including Ajahn Brahm, mentioned that, hey, it's better for them to have morphine than to be in pain. So they can have a bit of morphine just to reduce the pain and to have a clear state of mind. And they need calm and peaceful atmosphere during that time. Now, in the Theravada and Mahayana, normally what actually happens is that the monks or nuns probably do some kind of chanting or even giving some kind of death reflection to the patient. Like during that time, there'll be reflection which includes remembering of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, the kind deeds that the patients had done before, remembering the impermanence and forgiveness to any kind of unclosed business, letting go of attachments, and leaving the physical body. So these are reminded to the patients before they die. Now, that was before they die. Now, this is after they die. So what actually happens here is that from the Buddhist perspective, and from even whether Theravada or Mahayana, when a person dies, there is still some stream of consciousness lingering around. So for most of people who died anyway. And what we recommend is to not disturb the body for a few hours. I think I put a couple of hours there, but I think some groups told me to leave it for at least 8 hours. So it varies from different traditions. Now, during that time, some Buddhist chanting can be played in the background. Let's say you have some CDs or MP3 player, or even a phone, just leave the chanting happening for a few hours and just let it continue chanting. That probably might help the deceased to sort of recall the teachings of the Buddha.
Okay, let's pay our respects to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Give 3 big sadhus for Boon's talk, and then we'll do our closing chants. So first of all, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Then Arahat Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivadami. Swakato Bhagavato Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangam Namami.